Hi everyone, how are you today? For those of you who don't remember me or don't know me, my name is Shaquana and I'm a community health educator with the Center for Community Alternatives, and my preferred pronouns are she, her, and hers.
And I'm Olivia, and I'm also a community health educator with the Center for Community Alternatives. And my preferred pronouns are she, her, hers.
For those of you who may not know or understand what preferred pronouns are or are used for, we'll actually be discussing that exact topic today. So just hold on a second, okay?
But first, we want to say thank you for all your participation last week.
We hope you enjoyed our first lesson as well as our mini quiz from last week, and we're so excited to be joining you for the second and last lesson.
As we mentioned, today we're going to be diving into our second topic, gender pronouns, where we'll discuss the pronouns people use to identify themselves with other people.
So today you can expect to review the differences between gender identity and gender expression, define gender pronouns and how, why they're used, and also practice using common gender pronouns.
Just like the last lesson, everyone will receive a worksheet packet, and you'll use this to follow along with the workshop. At the end of your workbook, you'll find a section called the question box.
If you have questions that you would like to get answered, please submit this last page to the coordinator, and we will try to answer your questions in one of our later videos. Okay, great. Let's get started. Please flip to the first page of your workbook. We're going to start off today by quickly reviewing some of the key terms we discussed in a previous lesson, gender and sex. So just as a reminder, gender identity is how a person feels about their gender and size. A person's gender may or may not match their sex or gender that they were assigned at birth.
Gender expression is how a person expresses their gender on the outside. A person's gender identity doesn't define their gender expression, and sometimes they may be the same, like a person who identifies as female and expresses feminine gender types. Or they may be different, such as a person who identifies as male but also expresses female gender types.
Biological sex is the sex assigned at birth, which can be male, female, or intersex.
And sexual/romantic attraction is how a person feels about other people, either sexually or romantically.
In other words, sexual attraction is based on who you have sexual feelings for or desire for, and romantic attraction is based on who you have emotional feelings for. You may be wondering how all of these ideas show up in our everyday lives. As we've discussed, not every part of the gendered person is visible or apparent when you first meet someone. You won't know their value system or their gender identity just by looking at them. This is important when it comes to how you address and talk about people in your life.
The key terms we're going to focus on today are gender expression, gender identity, and gender pronouns. To begin this conversation, let's start with nouns. Nouns describe a person, place, thing, or idea.
Pronouns make up a small subcategory of nouns and are used to replace other nouns. For example, if you're telling a story about your sister Sarah, the story will begin to sound repetitive if you keep saying her name Sarah over and over again.
For example, Sarah always loved fashion. Sarah announced that Sarah wants to go to fashion school. That sentence definitely sounds a little funny.
Pronouns are the words we use to replace Sarah's name so that the sentence sounds less awkward. For example, Sarah has always loved fashion. She said she wants to go to fashion school.
So in this case, we used the pronouns she and hers. And this is based on the assumption that Sarah's gender is a woman or a girl and that she chooses to use the pronouns she or hers.
This is not always the case. Our society has a lot of names and characteristics in which we use to assign a gender. Sarah is often assumed to be a girl's name, while Michael is often assumed to be a boy's name.
So pronouns challenge the idea that someone's name or gender expression, their outward appearance, means something about their gender identity or gender pronouns, so how they want to be called.
To become more comfortable with the practice of using gender pronouns, we're going to ask you to turn to page 2 of your workbooks now. What you see in front of you is the Gender Pronouns Guide worksheet. On this sheet are a list of just some of the common pronouns people can use for others to refer to them as.
You may not have heard of other pronouns other than she or he. There are many more pronouns that have existed and people use on a daily basis.
Pronouns help a person feel like themselves. We already know that someone's gender identity can be different from their gender that is assigned to them at birth.
And similarly, someone may want to use pronouns that are different than the ones they were assigned to them with their gender.
Using correct pronouns is just as important as using the correct name. And just like asking for someone's name, we're going to work on getting used to asking for someone's pronouns and using them correctly.
Now that we've discussed what gender pronouns are and taken a look at some of the common gender pronouns, please take a few minutes to practice using some of these pronouns. Below the list of different common pronouns are 5 sentences that we'd like you to try to complete. Using the list of different common pronouns, please fill in the blanks to the sentences below using any pronoun of your choice from the column with the matching number.
For example, the blank area for the first sentence should be filled in with a pronoun from column number 1 because the number in the parentheses next to the blank is number 1. We'll give you 3 minutes to fill out the worksheet and then we'll review it with you.
All right, so how was that? What pronouns did you decide to use for each sentence? Let's quickly review some potential answers you could have provided.
For the first sentence, blank goes to school every Monday through Friday. One potential answer could have been, Z goes to school every Monday through Friday.
For the second sentence, blank rides blank's bike to school most days. An example of this answer could be, they ride their bike to school most days.
Moving on to the third sentence. Blank passed a person who was talking to blank. An answer could be, she passed a person who was talking to herself.
For sentence number 4, blank stopped to talk to blank. An answer could be, Per stopped to talk to Ver.
And then for the last sentence, turns out blank wasn't talking to blank. Blank was actually using blank AirPods.
A potential answer for this one could be, turns out V wasn't talking to Verself. V was actually using V's AirPods.
Another potential answer for that last sentence could be, turns out he wasn't talking to himself. He was using his AirPods.
So for some of you, this might have been a challenging activity, and for others, maybe not so much. Just remember that practice makes perfect.
So if you still feel unfamiliar with these right now, remember that you'll get used to them the more you use them. Just like learning someone's name, it takes time and repetition. Asking for and using a person's correct pronouns is essential to creating an inclusive and respectful environment, and this is a great starting point.
Thanks again for all your participation today. As a reminder, today we reviewed the differences between gender identity and gender expression, defined gender pronouns and why or how they're used, and practice using common gender pronouns.
And just as another reminder, a person's pronouns are a part of their gender identity, and you cannot know their pronouns just by looking at them. Always ask everyone you meet. Before you all finish up, make sure that if you have any questions, just fill out the question box at the last part of your packet. And once you're done with that, you can hand that to the coordinator. Again, thank you so much for joining us for this lesson, and we'll see you all soon.